Let's talk about the aha moment. That instance when a problem suddenly untangles, when everything just clicks. We call it illumination. It's the third stage of Graham Wallace's classic four-stage model of creativity. Today we'll be going over what happens inside the brain when that moment actually hits. This is thanks to researchers John Konios of Drexel University and Mark Beeman of Northwestern, whose work used EEG and fMRI to track when the moment emerges. Their findings connect directly to what Wallace described a century ago, giving us a scientific view on how illumination works. Hey guys, this is Abel, and this channel is dedicated to all things creativity, whether that be creativity research, tips, tricks, or strategies, or anything that's useful in the field of creativity to bring straight to you guys. Now to warn you guys, this video is very science heavy, but that's why we're here, to challenge ourselves with new information, especially about creativity. Who doesn't want that? Now if you like the video, give it a like or subscribe, and we'll get right to the video. Welcome to Creativity Arcade. Before we dive deeper into the science, let's ground this in what came first, Wallace's theory of creativity. Back in 1926, Graham Wallace proposed that creative thinking moved through four distinct stages. That's preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification. In the preparation stage, you gather information, struggle with a problem, and consciously fill your mind with everything related to it. Then in incubation, you focus on the problem. You let go, do something else, and you allow the unconscious processes to keep working quietly in the background. Then comes illumination, the aha stage. The idea surfaces suddenly, often when you least expect it. Finally, verification is when you test the idea and see if it actually works. Wallace's theory gave structure to what always felt very mysterious. The connection between Wallace's stages in neuroscience, it's what makes the science of aha moments so powerful. It shows us that creativity isn't chaos. Now let's set up the problem. Konios and Beeman wanted to capture the split second when an idea jumps from the unconscious into awareness. They used simple word puzzles called compound remote associations. 3 words like crab, pine, and sauce, and the task was to find the 4th word that linked the 3. What would you guess the 4th word linking them is? Again, the words are crab, pine, and sauce. Take a guess, I'll give you a second. If you guessed apple, then you'd be right. Some people solve these puzzles step by step, testing possibilities. That's analytical thinking. Others got an answer in a flash. That's insight. By comparing brain activity across those 2 ways of solving, they could isolate what the aha moment looks like inside the head. What they found is striking. Roughly 3/10 of a second before a person hits the button to announce an answer, a burst of high-frequency electrical activity, around 40 Hz, flared in the right anterior temporal lobe, just above the ear. That's the brain region involved in connecting distant and abstract ideas, like understanding a metaphor or getting a joke. This gamma band burst is a physical echo of Wallace's illumination stage. The brain linking pieces that were quietly active but disconnected. But the burst wasn't alone. Just before it, they saw a smaller wave, a slower rhythm called alpha activity coming from the back of the brain. Alpha waves are often tied to closing your eyes and blocking out distractions. In this case, the participants weren't allowed to look away from the screen, so the brain did it internally. It's as if the mind blinked, briefly silencing visual input to let the hidden solution surface. That blink marked the bridge between Wallace's incubation and illumination stage. That moment when attention turns inward. The frontal activity they found was traced in the anterior cingulate cortex, a brain region that monitors conflict and helps the brain switch between strategies. When you're relaxed or in a positive mood, this area is more flexible, ready to notice weak and ill-formed ideas and put them together. When you're anxious, it locks down on the obvious path instead. Stepping back, resting, or feeling safe makes illumination more likely. It's not just patience, it's physiology. Then the team asked the deeper question. Could your default brain activity, in other words, what happens when you're doing nothing, predict your creative style? They recorded EEG participants at rest long before they were given the puzzles. Weeks later, they had the same people solving anagrams and the puzzles, and the results were astonishing. Those who later solved mostly by insight already showed greater right hemisphere activity and a more diffuse pattern across the brain. Those who solved analytically had more concrete frontal lobe activity. In other words, your mind already hints at how you'll approach problems. Diffuse and associative, or focused and methodical. That's Wallace's preparation stage, happening unconsciously. The mind tuning itself before work even begins. Let's rewind a few years before the mood and aha research of the late 2000s. In 2006, John Konios and Mark Beeman published a study in psychological science entitled The Prepared Mind, Neural Activity Prior to Problem Presentation Predicts Subsequent Solutions by Sudden Insight. They wanted to know if the brain could prepare itself for insight before a problem even appeared. They used the same kind of verbal puzzles as before, the compound remote associations. Before each trial, participants pressed a button to signal that they were ready. The researchers recorded the 2 seconds of brain activity, leading up to the puzzle's appearance, leading up to what they called the preparatory interval. Then they compared that interval to the kind of solution the participant would later report, insight or analysis. And the results were very revealing. EEG and fMRI both showed that neural activity before the puzzle could predict how it would be solved. As Konios and his team wrote, neural activity before a preparatory interval predicted which problems would subsequently be solved with versus without self-reported insight. Before an insightful solution, activity was stronger in the medial, frontal, and temporal regions, areas tied to cognitive control and semantic processing. Before an analytical solution, activity shifted backwards, showing more engagement in the occipital cortex, which handles visual attention. In other words, even before the puzzle appeared, the brain already chose a mode, inward for insight, outward for analysis. The researchers concluded that, and I quote, insight preparation involved a heightened activity in the medial frontal areas associated with cognitive control and in temporal areas associated with semantic processing, while non-insight preparation involves increased occipital activity consistent with an increase in external directed visual attention. So insight doesn't come out of nowhere. It starts seconds earlier, as the mind quietly arranges itself for associative leaps. That's why Louis Pasteur's quote still resonates, chance favors the prepared mind. And in Wallace's framework, this is preparation made visible. Not just a metaphor anymore, but a measurable brain state, shaping the moment before illumination. Now this next bit of research is really interesting. In 2009, researcher Karuna Subramaniam wanted to know how mood changes the way we solve problems. She and her colleagues, including John Konios and Mark Beeman, invited 79 people in their lab. Before solving problems, each person filled out mood questionnaires. Then they worked through word problems that could be solved analytically or insightfully. After every solution, participants reported whether it came step by step or as a flash of insight. Again, the results were striking. People with a positive mood solved more problems through insight. Those feeling neutral or anxious leaned more analytically. The difference wasn't just in behavior, it showed up in the brain as well. During the short pause before each puzzle began, fMRI scans revealed activation in one region, the anterior cingulate cortex. Again, it monitors conflict, shifts attention, and it detects when a new approach is needed. Subramaniam found that positive mood literally primed this region. When people felt good, the ACC became more sensitive to weaker remote associations. The brain, in a sense, opened its mental aperture. That preparatory state would predict who would later experience insight. Anxiety had the opposite effect. It quieted the ACC, narrowing focus and reducing flexibility. Under stress, the mind clings to what it already knows. In her words, positive emotion enhances insight by modulating attention and cognitive control mechanisms via the anterior cingulate cortex. Put simply, when you're happy, your brain relaxes its grip just enough to let ideas in. Positive emotion seems to unlock that place, allowing the brain to reorganize information and detect unexpected patterns. The finding also supports the broader story that insight isn't magic. It's preparation meeting the right emotional state. A calm, open mind gives the neutral machinery room to explore. That's why ideas often strike in moments of safety. In the shower, on a walk, or when laughter breaks the tension. The anterior cingulate cortex is watching, ready to flip the switch when the right connection finally clicks. And that's when illumination happens. Now put together, these studies trace Wallace's entire creative cycle. Preparation appears in the priming of the temporal lobes, before the problem begins. Incubation shows up in the alpha brain blink that quiets distractions. Illumination erupts in the gamma burst from the right temporal lobe, the neutral flash of aha. Verification comes next, as frontal regions re-engage to test and confirm the idea. Again, each stage is not just a metaphor, but a measurable brain state. Both strategies, insight and analysis, have value. Analytical solving is deliberate, step-by-step reasoning and depends on working memory. Insight solving relies on unconscious reorganization and associative leaps. Konios and Beeman show that we can switch between them, but mood and attention bias one path over the other. Wallace saw creativity as a path going through both, the planned and the spontaneous. Modern data confirms that he was right. Creativity thrives on their rhythm, so the aha moment isn't magic. Wallace drew the map a century ago. Neuroscience has filled in the terrain. And the best part? You can design your day and your state of mind to invite more of those flashes when the timing is right. Because when insight meets preparation, the brain doesn't just think, it lights up. And that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys learned something about the neuroscience of the aha moment and the aha moment itself and the creative theory that comes behind it from Wallace's creative 4-stage model. And comment down below to tell me what kind of aha moments you had in your life, whether that's just sudden flashes of insight, or maybe you're more of an analytical step-by-step thinker. Tell me below. Anyway, again, this is Creativity Arcade. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.